News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth at darkhookmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, wishing a very happy belated birthday, 187th, to the infamous, immortal, venerable Thomas Crapper.
Oh, absolutely, Max, absolutely. I mean, Allan, can you think of a man that has affected society more than Thomas Crapper? I mean, think of the positive impact. How many diseases has this man prevented? How many lifestyles have been improved thanks to the invention of this man?
You know what I found rather ironic?
What?
Thomas Crapper was born on the same day that Louis Pasteur, the man of microbiology, died.
See, cleanliness enters the world. So, yeah. And if you don't know who this man is, just wait, because in honor of Thomas Crapper, we're going to waive our great moments in building history and once again focus on great inventors in history. And I suppose we can say it. This man basically invented modern toilets, right? I mean, that is a fair, whatever.
Not really. What he invented was the ball cock.
Okay.
That filled the toilet properly.
He also made the U-bend.
Yes.
Okay, well,
yes.
Yeah. All right, let's not give too many spoilers, but let's just put it this way. It made your
house doesn't explode because of Mr. Thomas Crapper.
It doesn't explode. It smells better.
Yeah,
it's more convenient. And,
Yes.
Okay, so obviously we have to celebrate that. So if you want to let us know how you celebrated Thomas Crapper's birthday, call or text us at the Big
I think
M.
we all know how everyone celebrated it.
Call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams over at the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page. And then while you're on Facebook, meander on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made there. We actually made 3 posts. I saw something pretty amusing on the way to the studio today, Allan, and I took a picture and I posted. It's definitely in the season that you appreciate. You know, it's a Halloween.
I've seen several this week. Yes.
And if you want to see what that is, it's pretty funny. It's up on our Facebook page. So check that out and like the page and share the page. Of course, we always ask you to do that. We have a great show today, Allan. I'm looking at our list here. So we're going to keep a few. Okay, let's see. We have a tool tale. It's always exciting when you get to use a tool you've never used before. And this, I mean, I can't say I've never used this tool, but this is a, let's just say this is a souped up version of this tool that I used this week, and it was pretty cool, man. And I want to share my experience with that. Allan, you speaking of Thomas Crapper in Allan's week in review, sounds like he was in spirit.
He was a guiding spirit all week. Yes, he was.
Okay, and that's all we're going to say about that at the moment. So this is going to be fun. We're bringing back a historically terrible segment, and I'm going to say right now, you can send all your hate mail if you did. I think this could turn into this could turn into a hot debate, and it's wood paneling.
Oh, there's no debate.
Some people may have, there's people that love wood paneling. We have our feelings about it, but under the category of historically terrible, stand by for a hot discussion of wood paneling. Man. So we have a Tool Talk Radio quick tip we're going to bring in. We have a lot of stuff. I bet I'm not going to tease anymore because you know how that works. We have our must-have item of the week that actually I'm going to say it's an improved version of a must-have item I brought in several months ago, but this is one of Allan's, and I have to say, I think it's much better than the one I had.
You got a little tool envy going on there? We got
pretty much. So it's all it's on the table, and we've got even more. And of course, like we said, we'd love to hear from you and get your takes on things. So you can get in touch with us, call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. All right, so I want to put something on the table, I guess, Allan, for the listener participation, we could say. Okay, so I had a very interesting experience this week. I went to a movie. I went and saw The Creator, written by Gareth Edwards, who was
Right.
the mastermind behind Rogue One, which is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. I think it's really cool. And so this movie, the creator, I went into it as a blank slate. The only thing I knew about it was what I saw in the trailer, and I'm not going to give spoilers because it's a really, really interesting movie.
Okay.
But it looks. So I watched the movie. It looks epic. This looks like one of those major, $200 or $300 million blockbuster type movies. And afterwards, I did a little looking into it, and I found out that this movie only cost $80 million to make. Which today,
I love how you said the word only $80 million.
In today's standards,
that should tell you something how things have changed.
I mean, they spend that much at the craft services table for a Marvel movie, right? I mean,
at this point, yes.
Okay, so make note of that. And it was shot on a camera that you could basically walk into one of your electronics stores and buy. It had a really interesting. It felt very different, very unique, and very epic. So it got me thinking, when it comes to your home, there's, let's call these high-impact improvements or high-impact statement pieces. So there are things that you might do to your home that people come over and everybody compliments you on it or everybody makes note of it or something, And so if you've got some of these types of things in your home, we may give out a few later that we've got in our home or that we've observed or something, but that's what we'd love to hear from you. It doesn't necessarily have to be expensive. In fact, it might be more interesting if it wasn't expensive.
Bang for your buck type of thing.
Yeah, and the type of thing everybody comments on. So that's out there on the table. And then, of course, we also want to leave it out there because we have gotten a little bit of feedback on these humorous signs and home accoutrements. That's going to just be an open type of thing. So, but Alan, I'll throw one out there just to kind of get the ball rolling with this. One of the things that made a big impact on our home, and it literally cost me $20 to do.
Right.
We changed it cost me about $40 because I painted a storm door and the front door. We painted it a really unique color. Because you know how we've talked about a front door is its own. It can be like an accent color. It doesn't necessarily have to.
Right.
Be
it doesn't
some
have
boring,
to look like a hole in the wall. Yes.
Right. And we get more comments on that. Than we've had. We painted the storm door black, and we painted the front door kind of this burnt orange color, which sounds horrible, but it actually looks pretty cool. So
no, that's you got to keep in mind the finished product. So yes,
right. So so that's the kind of stuff we're looking at. And there's you might have an interesting something that you picked up at a flea market or something, and you put a fresh coat of paint or you did something to it. So that's kind of our call to action right there. So let's see. I'm not going to tease anything else, Alan. We'll never get to it. So a full day of Tool Talk Radio is coming at you. We're going to take a quick break, and then, I can't wait for this. This is going to be a hot discussion as we discuss historically terrible ideas and wood paneling.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
People really don't know how to finish wood properly.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I don't know what circles he's traveling in. I know a lot of people that know how to finish wood. Ron Swanson is an elitist. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, which apparently people are already doing, Alan. I guess they reacted to our tease. Also, we invite you to go over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, like the page, share the page, and check out the 3 posts we've made this morning, including a really funny picture of something I saw on the way to work today, and I stopped and took a picture and posted it. It's definitely Halloween themed, and it's pretty funny.
This is work for you?
Well, hey, show prep. I wonder if I can deduct that. I don't
absolutely.
know. Okay, and then also we invite you, after you've experienced the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, head on over to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams. Well, if you're just tuning in, one of the items on the table is we're asking you to share high-impact high impact improvements to your home that didn't necessarily cost a lot, or maybe they're, they might, whatever. But something that people always comment on and people have to, make note of when they see your home. And you said somebody already weighed in on that, Max?
Insane in the rain chains.
Wait, is that the name of the caller, or is it the...
No, I was just saying it's rain chains, but it's insane in the rain chains.
Rain chains, okay? I have to plead ignorance, Alan. I think I know what that is, but go ahead.
All right, it's a replacement for your downspout.
That's what I thought. I've seen that. So you basically have a chain. Water comes down out of the gutter and runs down the chain.
Yes.
Into wherever it's running to.
Right.
Okay,
and
I have seen those.
There are probably 1,000 different types.
Is it popular in Asia? Because I thought I've seen something similar in like a Japanese architecture.
They're popular any place that has a lot of rain. And you're just, basically the idea is that you are controlling the flow. You're giving it something to
grab
use
to,
the
right?
viscosity of the water to cling to. And you can get amazingly decorative, especially in conjunction with rainwater collection systems. Because I've seen water wheels, I've seen the turning little buckets, I've seen the cups, the bells. I've seen at least 100 different shapes.
Right. Okay.
That are all designed to help you channel and funnel water to where you actually want it to go.
Right. Okay.
But yes, they are relatively inexpensive and can make a dramatic change or appearance, because it's not something that's really all that common here in the Mid-South.
Yeah, I was going to say I've probably seen a small handful of those since I've been here. But I feel like I saw them in San Diego, but it never rained there. It was more just like, okay, well, here they are, But
they didn't get quite as much use out there as they do here.
Rain chains is a very good one. I would have never thought of that. Well, that's the stuff we're looking for, folks. Yeah, unique items or just something interesting, and that's what we'd like to hear from. Also, if you're just tuning in, you might want to know that, what was it, Thursday was Thomas Crapper's birthday, and in honor of that, we're celebrating the great man. And you said somebody else had something they had to say about that, Max?
Who do you think?
Okay, what did he say? What did Agent 732 have to say about this? So
let us not forget John Harrington, the inventor of the flush toilet. Crapper improved on the design, of course, but Harrington was first. It's like a Tesla v. Edison of the bathroom world.
Really? So there's more intrigue in this story, because this is coming up. This is going to be our great inventors in history, and you're saying there was a whole rivalry going on.
There's actually 3 of them involved in this.
Wait, but do we want to give this away now? I mean, this is...
we'll just say there were 3 involved, and the history is interesting, to say the least.
Okay.
So there's your big tease. And I'm also going to point out that not that horribly long ago, was in a facility in the United States that still had water closets.
Really? Okay.
Which was very fascinating.
Okay, so a lot of toilet talk coming up.
Yes,
and a
yes,
lot
indeed.
of that era was very interesting in history.
There's even a king saying, there was even a prince saying if he wasn't a prince, he'd be a plumber.
Sure. I mean, it's one of those jobs everybody needs. So
it was still kind of stinky.
Yeah. All right. Hey, okay, cool. Wow. I can already see where this show's going today. But let's turn the corner, and Max, let's do it.
Oh my.
This armor's useless. Why do we even wear it? Oh, you stink!
This is the worst.
Okay, this is sure to ignite some controversy, or, at least I hope it does if we're doing our job. So I was talking to my wife last night, Alan, and sometimes I like to get her hot take on something. And I said, we want to do a historically terrible segment tomorrow. It took her less than a second to come up with this one. She goes, wooden paneling. Now, I happen to know she grew up in a home where the den had wood paneling, and she always hated it. But she said something that I'm going to quote her. She said, there is almost no situation where wood paneling looks good, no matter how much you spent on it. And I got to tell you something, Alan. I agree. And I love, okay, I will make one caveat. I've been to some old homes in Midtown or something like that where you've got the really interesting woodwork, but it's not necessarily the paneling. It might be the fireplace mantle or the the newel posts or something. But I'm sorry, I hate wood paneling. Where do you land on this controversy, Alan?
Usually somewhere around an open fire.
Wait, Max, are you a fan?
No.
Okay, good. All right, well let's put it out. So let's talk about wood paneling.
Let me semi-reverse that and go. It all depends on what you're trying to achieve and the proper use of the medium.
Talk to me.
Where we went horribly wrong in, guess what decade? We look back and go,
couldn't be the
70s was just horrifying. All right.
Was it even wood at that point? Wasn't it like press board and who knows whatever else?
It just began getting worse and worse and worse. Okay, so the Wayback Machine is, why do we even have wood paneling?
Okay.
So we get to go back to ancient Greece, Japan, China, Rome, any ancient society.
You're throwing Japan under the bus?
I am.
How dare you?
Watch this. I'm going to back the bus up a couple of times just to make sure I get it. All right, now keep in mind the building materials of antiquity,
Sure.
adobe, some type of mud, some type of wood, and a lot of rock.
Right.
A lot of stone. Okay, these things transfer heat or cold rather easily.
Okay,
So,
there's
if you're think about it, all right, you're walking around the castle, you got all this stonework everywhere, and it's 30 degrees outside. Guess what? It's 30 degrees inside.
Sure. Yeah.
And this is where I'm going to pick on Larry Brown for a minute.
Okay.
Where we talk about air conditioning. So for us to live comfortably, we like it about 50% humidity. And to be honest, the modern human likes a temperature somewhere around 70-ish degrees.
Unless you're a woman and it has to be 85.
I'm just, as an ish. You can send your hate mail to Joe
send your
Thornton.
hate. Yeah, exactly.
So the wood panels, reed panels, wood panels, even cloth panels, even tapestries. These were all attempts to put an air barrier between you and the wood substance on the wall.
How way back are we going here? Because now you're making me think about something. So you're saying this was a practical necessity at first. So.
Well, if you think about it, you didn't waste the tree, because in a lot of areas,
whole tree.
Well, like in China, Japan, and the Middle East and all that, you didn't have trees like you had over in Italy or in Great Britain, where we're just covered in giant trees. You had areas where trees were a little more sparse.
Right.
So you wanted to get as much out of a tree as you could, and a thin roll of paneling made maximum use instead of big old thick boards.
Okay.
So what this was a way of breaking the air motion. So now you could put something on that wall so the cold or the heat could stay on the other side of you.
It's like a blanket for your wall.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then, of course, we had to make it look nice. And all through the ages, we've had a wide variety of different kinds of panelings that went up on the walls. Of course, the problem is they're flammable.
Yeah.
Your house caught on fire. Your house really caught on fire. Ben Franklin gets involved in this because he's the man who gave us a lightning rod.
Right.
So now your house didn't just burst into flames every time there was a thunderstorm. So, you get into this, and it's a really convoluted history of, so how did we get here? And it's trying to really use the most out of the tree and make our lives a lot more comfortable.
I will say this, because you're making me think about something. I didn't even think of the practical necessity, because when I look back at history, like these, when did it get really gaudy? What is it called? The Baroque period and everything.
You roll into the Victorian era, and now everything's all fluffy and whipped creamy, and lots and lots of carvings and angles and circles. Yeah,
that is not my style. But now you're making me think. So it came about really for a practical reason. Okay, from one point of view, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, we still see a lot of wood paneling today in different cabins and things like that. I just think it's ugly though.
Well,
but that's interesting though that you're bringing us the history of how useful it actually was.
Could it also be good for if you're trying to readily disassemble a structure, kind of like the MASH units back in the Korean War?
Oh yeah, you could actually have whole panel walls literally ready to clip together. So you could put together a structure, you could protect a structure quickly and efficiently.
All right, cool. So we're getting a lot of backstory on wood paneling, and when we come back, we're going to dismantle it rip it to pieces. You're, as is our wand. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And now for the finishing touch.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
He says right before he's about to paint. That is a deep cut, Max. I doubt anybody knows who that is. So, okay. That sounds like from the 1960s Spider-Man cartoon, right?
I don't want to give away the deep cut.
Okay. All right. Very few will remember that one. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to scoot on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. We've made a few posts there. There's a pretty funny picture I posted of an actual Halloween decoration in a rather unusual place that I posted up on the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. We also posted our must-have item of the week and the topic of our discussion that we're going to get back to in just a minute, which is historically terrible wood paneling. Sorry, folks. If you love wood paneling, you're not going to like this conversation. Oof. So then after you've done all that, scoot on over to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page, and you can watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams. So if you're just tuning in, one of the things we have out on the table, and we'd like to hear from you, is unique, what are we calling these? Unique, high-impact home improvements or home accoutrements or something that really they don't necessarily even have to cost a lot of money, but they make a big impact. One of them we just got from a listener was great, talking about, what are they called? Rain chains.
Rain chains.
Those are cool. And so and I talked about our decorative front door. We spent about $40, and every time anybody comes over, they compliment how cool the front door looks. So stuff like that. Anything, and it might be something a little more expensive, but we want to hear from you on those points. So now who I wonder, and so in a minute, Allan, we're going to get back to our discussion about historically terrible wood paneling. We got a little bit of a backstory from you about the actual practical necessity of where this came from, and we're going to get back to our hatred for this item, our modern day, version of that. But before we do that, I want to talk about our good buddy Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration, who is, man, it's getting harder and harder to get him into the studio. I asked it, I said, hey, Larry, you're overdue for a visit. He's like, I'm sorry, duty calls. He's
busy.
Apparently, he'd rather work and help the Mid-Southerners with their HVAC needs than come and talk to us. So, can't really blame him on that decision. But if you have any HVAC needs, which let's face it, everybody does, we all want to stay cool, we all want to stay warm, and we all want to breathe clean air. And Larry can help you with all of those things.
Yes.
And especially, they really ramp it up with their Remy Halo system, which is really using the UV power of the sun to create clean air with cleaning particulates inside that basically clean every surface that this air lands on, which is a fascinating technology. Speaking of technology, they always work with Trane systems because Trane is at the cutting edge of HVAC technology. And your HVAC unit is a high, boy, you talk about it's a precision instrument. It is probably one of the most precise instruments in your home. You don't fool around with it. You got to make sure it's working at peak efficiency, which is why it's a great idea to have Brown Refrigeration stop over, make an inspection, have them over once or twice a year. You also want to get your ducts clean, keep it functioning properly. It's very affordable to do that, and it basically pays for itself when you have a well-functioning HVAC system. The business culture at Brown Refrigeration is second to none. They answer their phone. They're completely reliable. They've been around forever. They're not going anywhere. So get in touch with the good people at Brown Refrigeration. You can call them directly at 901-362-1881 or go to their very easy to remember website, brownref.com. Well, I'm enjoying this conversation. I was, we were talking about historically terrible wood paneling. And I mean, let's face it, a lot of it we kind of are thinking of, maybe paneling from the 70s or where they just went overboard. And the 80s had plenty of wood paneling as well. I hate to say it as much as I love the 1980s. But you were telling us there was really a lot of practical reasons this came about.
Yes.
Okay, which I guess is always the case. And then, out of that grew the idea of, hey, well, let's make it look nice, which, I don't know.
Well,
we can debate whether it actually does, so,
Well, as with all things, technology gets involved because for the first few hundred years or a couple of thousand years of using wood paneling, you had artisans sitting around thinly carving, creating, and designing these things. And now when you go to a museum or you go hang out at one of the archaeological sites, you get to see the tapestries and the wood walls and the bamboos and the woven mats, and it's all very cool and great looking.
Yeah.
Then we get to World War II.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Let's pull the bus on in. Here we go. And now we are really up to modern manufacturing standards.
Okay.
Because we learned a lot. By the time we get to the 50s, we know how to make stuff.
Well, you had to back then,
We know how to make a lot of it.
Yeah.
And automation is now coming in. We now got machinery. And this is kind of one of these things you got to remember. Up until the 40s, hand tools and automation like we think of it was really kind of spotty. But after World War II, we got several hand tool companies all competing. We got manufacturing capabilities out there. And we started turning our attention to everything. And in this case, wood paneling is no exception. And except now, as we ease up to the 70s.
Well, wait, you were throwing World War II under the bus. Is it just
World War II is just where we kind of went, all right, we're from an artisan product to a manufactured product.
Okay. So in other words, you might have called your master carpenter and said, I need some wood paneling installed in my home back in like 1930. And they say, yeah, okay. And it would have cost a fortune because it was all hand done. Now you're getting a manufactured product that they crank out at a factory.
Now, exactly.
Okay,
now the
now
price is now 30% of what it used to be.
Right.
You can now walk into a lumber yard or a showroom, and they have got not 4 different kinds, not 6 different kinds, but they may have 50 different kinds. Different colors, different tints, different finishes. And let's face it, our taste in the 60s got a little odd.
Yeah.
So now as we roll into the 60s, not only are we doing quote unquote, and everybody needs to look at me when I say the rabbit ears in the air, wood paneling, we started getting colors not commonly found in nature. We started
That's a polite
getting,
way of putting it, yeah.
Things that weren't completely wood. We started getting really thin wood paneling. And as we eased through the 60s and 70s, we had a lot of people, as an old friend of mine used to say, used to build stuff with the door shut.
Okay.
Translation, you don't know what they did.
Right.
And this is where you and I kick in, and now we kind of go, welcome back to 30 years of stupid.
Well,
because wood paneling was never designed to be a wall.
So basically that was interesting because my dislike of wood paneling really just goes because I just don't like the way it looks. I feel like it makes the room look darker. It shrinks it up. You're stuck with that color. I mean, unless of course you paint it, which
and now you've
a lot of
painted
people,
wood paneling.
I painted a lot of wood paneling 20 years ago.
Oh yes,
everybody wanted it. But you were also reminding me of another reason I hate it, and it's because if your job is to come in and either install something on it or take it out.
Yes.
Boy, that stuff doesn't come out without a fight.
No.
Especially if somebody, decided they wanted to install it with glue.
Yes.
And whatever else. But, you're right. It's basically takes the place of sheetrock. Although I've seen it installed over sheetrock as well. So
which is a semi-happier installation because it was definitely warmer and cooler. There was definitely less air movement behind it.
right.
But it's just the fact that it got very, very thin, and we got too many varieties, and it got overused.
Right.
Because if you go to like a nice French provincial or a quote-unquote American farmhouse style,
Yeah.
and it's got a beautiful wainscoting all the way around the lower part of the kitchen, the dog can't scratch it up. Well, guys, that's paneling.
Yeah.
But it's within reason.
See, okay, that's a good point, because before everybody sends all their hatred to me, I don't mind it as an accent, especially if it's something really cool. I've seen some pretty modern day ones where,
Yes.
okay, one wall or just that one thing over the fireplace, or that, it is an accent. It's not the entire room. I think
Right.
that's where I go
Yeah,
wrong. I don't
and-
like a whole room. Feels like a cave to me.
Well,
Like it shrinks it up.
Welcome to designers of the 70s.
Yeah.
Because, again, manufacturing gave us a new toy. And we have a tendency to get new toys and run with them like a 4-year-old with a brand new pair of scissors.
I'm starting to wonder about this, because it seems like a lot of decorating trends, and maybe somebody out there has an opinion about this, is a reaction to what came before. Because now that you're saying this, I'm thinking of the 1950s homes where everything, the push was to look like the Jetsons. Everything had to be
Yes.
ultra modern and ultra gimmicky and ultra like a techie type of thing. And I wonder if like the decorators came along in the 60s and 70s, said, "Oh, we want your house to be cozy. We want you to feel like you're in a log cabin and not a spaceship or something." And then they went the extreme the other way or something like that.
And
it's
keep in mind, the paneling was now a cheap product.
right.
So your contractors are going to like it because, well, it doesn't cost as much.
It's easy to put on.
fast
There's
to
no
put up.
painting.
Exactly. So you could be at Studs on Monday,
Right.
and you could be paneled by Friday.
That's a good point. That is a good point. If you were just somebody that did, just wanted to get the job done, which is another reason I think
Just blaze through it. Yeah.
slap on a little paneling. I don't know. I think we're going to keep this out there. If you've got paneling horror stories, or if hey, if you love paneling, let us know.
Like I said, like goods wainscoting or accent pieces, these are wonderful.
But in our opinion, wood paneling is an
rough.
historically terrible idea, and that's the hill I'll die on.
Oh,
All right. Hey, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We're going to take a quick break and then do something very positive. We're going to do a Tool Talk Radio quick tip.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
For $1, what tool is used to hammer a nail? Is it A, a hammer, B, a nail, C...
B, nail. Final answer.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
I mean, okay. That guy's an idiot. Yeah, well, there's just no getting around it. Fry just does not, he never learns. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go to the Royal Retreat Studio Cams and watch the show over at the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and see what it looks like in here. As we said, the studio looks really cool. The lighting's perfect. The paint job's interesting. And, you have to look past us, but, other than that, the studio looks pretty cool. After you've done that, head on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, give us a like, and check out the 3 posts we've made over there, including a really funny picture that I took this morning on the way to work, and I saw a pretty cool Halloween. Actually, I don't even know if this is legally vandalism or there could be criminal charges because of this, but, whatever. It's pretty good. So we have a few topics out on the table that we'd love for people to weigh in on. Including the fact that Thursday was Thomas Crapper's birthday. And in honor of that great man, we're going to, in the second hour of Tool Talk Radio, instead of great moments in building history, we're going to do another one of our great inventors in history. And apparently, there's a lot more intrigue with this person than I first realized. It's a pretty another one of these cutthroat 1800s technology wars or whatever, like Tesla and Edison, that type of thing. So,
well, it spreads out further than that. But
okay,
yeah,
cool. And also, it's a call to action. We want to hear more. We got a really good text earlier. We want to hear about interesting home improvements. We're calling these high impact home improvements or home decorations that really maybe they don't even cost a lot, or maybe they're reasonably priced, but they make a real impact or a real conversation piece in your home. The rain chains are one I'm going to think about. That was a cool one. I talked about our front door. I will say one other thing. I've posted pictures of our kitchen that we did, and the one comment we get the most, or the one we get the most comments about, is a little breakfast table I made. Cost me like $150, but I made it out of African mahogany and bloodwood. And I didn't have to put any stain. It's one of the most beautiful woods you can have out there, and everybody comments on it. It's really cool. So that I would call that a high impact improvement. So that's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that we're looking for. So feel free to weigh in at any point with any of that. So all right, Max. Let's get to our Tool Talk Radio quick tip. Actually, I don't know if I have any. I don't know why I cued Max. I don't even know if he has any music for this. Max, we need some music for this next week. So
It's called the Tool Talk Quick Tips, like that we usually air throughout the day.
Okay, we'll work on this. So, we want to try each week to start, maybe, it's not always easy to describe stuff over the radio, but I feel like this one we have a good shot at. And we want to talk about caulking, practical, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the things we've learned over the years of, I wonder how many tubes of caulk, if we ever added this up, how many tubes of caulk have you
I could get to
out?
another planet and back at this point.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, if you lined them up end to end, you could go to the moon and back or something.
Easily at this point.
But in that vein, you and I have learned a lot about caulking, and why not just pass along whatever's worked for us? So
the number of I would have to say newbies to our industry that I have seen literally covered.
Caulking looks easy, but it can be if you have a system. But if you don't have a system,
caulking is all about having the confidence and audacity to do it.
Right.
It really is. It's about as good an example as I can give you, because I remember the very first really professional, and it was a masonry guy I knew in Texas, who was like the king of being able to apply caulk.
Well,
when he was done, it looked beyond machine laid.
Right. If it's well applied, it is sort of a work of art. So I'm going to say something right out of the gate that maybe people don't think about. So here's one. From the outset, if you have a caulking gun, you're going to notice that there is some caulking guns. There's this little hole thing at the bottom of the handle where if you it's got a razor edge, and if you stick the caulk in, the idea is you stick the tube in there and you cut it. You don't even need a razor knife. Well, folks, don't use that. That thing is useless, in my opinion. I'm sorry. That thing does not, right out of the gate, one of the things to make your life easier is to cut it nice and clean. You don't want any little bird edge, and you also want the hole to be the right diameter. If it's too small, you're squeezing the thing and it's coming out of the backside. If it's too big, you're getting too big of a bead of caulk. So I'm saying right out of the gate, think about the size of the opening, the angle of it, and make sure you use a nice sharp razor knife. That's my one. That's an initial jumping off point.
Counterpoint that slightly with you.
Okay.
And go, a lot depends on, am I doing bulk work or am I doing finesse work?
Okay, if you're cramming a bunch of caulk into some hole, outside, and it doesn't have to be finesse.
If I'm working
on
external stuff that I'm going to paint later.
Okay.
Especially like replacing soffits, going over lap band, going over things that are have a texture or maybe a spot where the dog scratched it or something, and you don't really need to replace everything, but you could fill this in and make it look nice.
Right.
I don't mind using the caulk gun and the little cutter. Now, the real trick is, though, you got to use it quickly. You can't just get it in there and kind of mess around and squeeze it, because it's just going to crush the plastic, and you're going to get a terrible bead.
The thing gets dull quick, too.
Oh, it was dull from the factory.
Yeah.
But, just popping the gun in, and again, for external bulk use, I'm going to use probably 6 cases of caulk to get this wall ready to paint. I don't mind using that. Otherwise, I will agree with you completely that I need a nice flat surface. I need someplace where I can get my razor, take my box cutter out, and I can get a nice little edge to it with the proper angle on it.
Okay, and I'm going to say something else. So there's different types. There's silicone. There's,
my gosh, so many different types.
And then there's a latex. Basically, I always look at it as water. It's kind of like paint for me. I always think of oil-based versus versus latex paint.
Right.
And so if you say, well, what I want to do, because I'm painting my kitchen, I see this a lot. Somebody's painting their kitchen walls, or maybe they installed a new granite countertop, and there's a gap between the granite and the wall. And so they say, well, I'm going to fill this in with this nifty clear silicone paint. Well, you better be aware, paint will not stick to that. I don't care what you do to it. That stuff, you'll paint it, especially with latex, and the paint will just glide off of it. And you're going to be really frustrated using that. So keep that in mind. If you're going to use a silicone base, you better be aware paint does not like that stuff. It'll peel right off.
Well, and this is where a little bit of research goes a long way. What is the gap we're trying to fill?
Yeah.
Is it in a bathroom? Is it in a kitchen? Can it mold? Is it going to be exposed to water? Are you going to paint over it? So, there are a few questions you got to ask yourself before you walk into the big box store and start buying these products.
Right. And also, if you're filling in gap, make sure you get that caulk all the way down in the gap. If you just put a little bead of caulk, well, you might wipe it on, it looks great, but when it dries and shrinks, you're going to have a gap. It's not going to bond, or in a few weeks you're going to go, why is there a big gap where I just did all this new caulking and stuff? Also, I want to say I'm a big fan. I learned this over the years. Get yourself a bucket that you don't care about too much, and a bucket of water, and I love those blue shop towels. And you will find, if you are caulking, one of the things I think people make a mistake is when they're spreading the caulk, maybe their fingers are dry, or they're trying to take too much off in one pass. But if you keep a wet shop towel and a bucket of water, this only works with latex, I should say, and you wipe it down, just take a little bit off, wipe it down, take it off. That's one of my favorite things. And then you dip the shop towel in the water and just rinse it off and reuse it. That, I think sometimes maybe people go wrong because they don't keep a wet towel around. That's the thing. You got to be able to wipe it off quickly, right? So.
Well, when we come back, I'm going to tell you about caulk appliers versus your finger.
Yeah. There's a lot. It's funny because caulking looks simple, but it's not. And we'll have a few parting tips when we come back at the hour, at the top of the hour. But Allan, I don't know where this first hour went, but I say it every week, but it's in the can.
Wow.
Speaking of in the can, I can't wait till we get to our great inventors in building history. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. Hour 1 of is in the can, but stay tuned for hour 2.
You mean number 2?
Oh.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, like the page, share the page, and check out the posts we've made this morning, including a pretty funny funny thing I saw on the way to work. Funny thing happened on the way to work this morning, and Alan and I took a picture of it. So it's, just a goofy Halloween thing. And then after you've done that, scoot on over to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page, and you can watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams. Well, we have quite a bit to get to, but we were, if you're just tuning in, we were in the middle of one of our Tool Talk Radio quick tips, and we were talking about caulking because, caulking is a thing that looks easier than it is. It's kind of like surfing. Surfing looks really easy. That's one of the hardest sports out there. It is really, really difficult. So.
Surfing never looked easy to me, Joe.
I don't know.
I'm
well,
sorry.
The ones who are really good at it, they look, okay, well, I'm just going to jump up on the board and boom, boom, boom. But with caulking, we were talking about cutting the right opening, using the right product, because if you're using, like we said, a silicone-based product, paint does not like to stick to that.
Right.
So if you're doing, also, it has a tendency to, okay, let's also say this. Caulk is not a super material in terms of if you're saying, well, I have this big leak between, in my shower area, and I need this silicone caulk to be the magic barrier that's going to keep my house from flooding. It's going to fail at some point.
Well,
it's not going to, it'll mildew. It can, so keep a realistic perspective on what caulk is. How's that? So.
It is there designed to fill a crack.
Right.
This is basically it. If you're really designing it to do anything else, at some point you are destined for failure.
Right.
Another thing I'm going to throw in is the proper removal of caulk. Because, that goes on a few years later has to be scraped off and replaced.
Sure.
And having done a lot of that here lately, I've seen a few new tools at the big box store, and one of them is a little V-shaped caulk remover.
Yeah.
And I'm actually happy to say that actually works fairly well. Of course, my favorite backups are, good old flat razor and or a nicely designed flathead screwdriver.
It's funny how perfectly that works to get a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, that flathead screwdriver just is one of the most versatile tools in the world. I use it for pretty much everything but screws.
Yeah, and I'm not telling anybody to do this, but I'm not going to promise that I haven't taken a flathead screwdriver for things like this, taken my bench grinder and grinded a sharp tip to that, and boy, does that take stuff out. It's like a mini chisel or something.
Oh, yeah, slide stuff out of there. And I've used a wood chisel to remove caulk before, and that does a really nice job because I like that nice beveled edge on the one side where you can kind of get under it and just push, and gently it will come right on up. Now, putting caulk back down, this is where you got to have a little confidence in what you can do. The number one thing, and this was one of those odd, it's kind of like when I was learning how to mud a wall. Somebody told me, he goes, it's not putting the mud on, it's taking the mud off.
Sure. Yeah.
And that is...
Mudding's another one that looks easier than it is.
Yeah, let's go to the bathroom, let's look at the side of the tub, and you've got a bead of caulk that runs along the bottom of the tile in the top of the tub.
Right.
And this is usually the number one bit of caulk the average homeowner needs to replace periodically.
Which, by the way, this could be a counterpoint, because I believe that there shouldn't even be caulk in this situation. If you're relying on caulk at that edge, I think you got problems. So
I think this is more a decorative...
I don't know.
Than it is just having tile abruptly end at the at the tub.
Well, I mean, I'm saying grout should be that's my particular.
It gets grouted in, but occasionally, for aesthetic purposes, you may want a little white caulk. And at this point, I'm going to say, pick a good, reliable brand, pick a shower and tub caulk. And you also don't necessarily need the big caulk gun and the big giant tube. They usually make this in smaller handheld.
Do you like those,
tubes.
like a toothpaste tube or something? I'm not a fan of that.
I use those constantly because, well, I do a lot more toilets than you do. I mean, honestly, I replace caulk around toilets probably 20 to 40 times a week.
And you like keeping things in your holsters.
And, man,
you just
it's like,
whip it out.
Yeah,
there
it's right there. I got one on each side, and I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Go in and put in And here's a trick. If you didn't put enough the first time, you can always add a little more. So if you're not familiar with doing this, put a thin bead down. And there are also at your local big box stores and hardware stores, caulk application kits.
Yeah.
Which are these cute little plastic things. They're usually rectangular, and they have different sized corners lopped off.
Are you triggering me on purpose?
Yes.
I hate those things.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Have you ever
I'm
seen one of
watching
those that
I'm
actually
watching your
work?
eyes twitch as I talk about this.
I mean, okay.
But if you've never done this before, this is something you can try. You just ease it down that edge, and you should get a nice, smooth caulk line. I will tell you that eventually you will throw that thing in the trash.
Yeah, so why are you telling people to use?
I'm just saying they don't work horribly, and if you've never done it before, it's a confidence builder.
Okay.
But the real way to apply caulk is, well, by thumb. You know,
Yeah,
thumb or finger, you're going to make the proper angle. You're going to slide your thumb along it or your finger, and you're going to get that perfect caulk bead that you want. But you got to do this confidently, and you can't hesitate, and you can't stop. It's one smooth action, and then you clean up your finger.
The best caulking, in my opinion, looks very primal. It's like I said, for me, it's a bucket of water.
Right.
It's a blue shop towel, and you're constantly dipping your finger in there and wipe. But that's how you get it done, I think. And you work in one direction. Don't start way over to the left and then go to the right and then meet in the middle or any. It's one steady, and once you get that edge looking reasonably good, leave it alone because you'll never fix it.
Yeah,
it's never gonna right. Yep. So, but okay. Well, caulk talk. We don't want to turn the whole show into caulk talk radio, but caulking is one of those types of bugaboos that it can be daunting.
Every homeowner is going to end up doing a little bit of this sooner or later.
Right. So, okay, pretty good stuff. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We have a lot to get to, including when we come back, I want to share a tool tale.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I live by the quarry. We should hang out by the quarry and throw things down there.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
Now that's a good. What would Creed throw in a quarry? I mean, who do we really want to know? Okay, and we'll come back. And if you've got thoughts about that, let us know. And we'll come back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made over there. And then also, after you've done that, scoot on over to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and check out the action over there. You can watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams. And I have to say, the studios are the studio is looking good. So, and if you think you're going to see Max on camera, forget it. The guy is as elusive as they come. You know who he reminds me of? Remember that show Charlie's Angels? What was it? What was the guy's name that was it? Not Bosley. Who's I guess it was Charlie. He was always talking to him through the speaker. You never saw what he looked like. So.
Right. And I used to crack up dying laughing because there was a nature show.
Yeah.
That the voice of Charlie was the host of.
Well, the thing,
and it was hilarious. So on Saturdays, the guy would walk out and give his name and wave at everybody and go,
"Right,
today we're going to talk about doves."
Yeah,
but it was the voice of Charlie, and that just cracked me up to no end.
I thought he was like a pretty well-known character actor back in the 70s, wasn't he? Anyway, whatever. We're not here to talk about Charlie's Angels, but you know who I bet watched Charlie's Angels back in the day? Our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. I have no doubt. I mean, that was a pretty fun show, I have to say. And Jay's a fun-loving guy, but when it comes to your exterior protection of your home, he is all business. That is what he lives for. Roofing, gutters, siding, windows, but we always love to showcase his roofing work. But they all incorporate together, and they're all part of a system that protects the outside of your home. But when it comes to roofing, Jay he always works with GAF because they are the elite products.
Yes.
They're always at the cutting edge of roofing technologies, which is why these days when you get a GAF roofing system, it's guaranteed for life. A lifetime transferable warranty.
That's amazing.
You and I have one of these, Alan. I mean,
I do.
it is such
I do indeed.
such a sense of peace of mind when it's raining or when you get these, to know that your roof is protected. Jay is always 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau and Good Housekeeping. He is a master elite installer, and his crew, boy, I don't know where he finds these guys. He has a top-notch crew, high energy. When you get Jay on the job, it is just the whole paradigm shifts. It is like, okay, we're getting this taken care of. There's a real sense of optimism. And one of the things that's exciting about working with Jay Hill is if you've got roofing issues that may be covered by your homeowner's insurance, well, Jay is a former insurance agent, and this is sort of a specialty.
Yes.
There may be things covered by your homeowner's insurance. The replacement of your roof, depending on the nature of the damage, may be covered, but that is a very tricky process to navigate, which is why you basically need an advocate. Jay is your advocate in this situation. He'll let you know if there's a path forward, and if there is, boy, is that going to save you a lot of money. And that's why we pay for our homeowner's insurance. And he also has 30 lenders at his disposal if you need financing. So Jay can get it done for you, and the consultation is free. It's basically you're getting not only great advice about what solutions you need for your roof, but just also, the financing, the insurance angle, everything. It's really fun to work with Jay. He's a cool guy. I'm glad he's part of the show. He always encourages you also to contact him directly, so you can call him directly. I always say call him at inappropriate hours. Call him at 3 in the morning. Wake him up at 901-484-5645 or go to his website, bigmroofingandremodeling.com. All right, well, you guys, if I'd like to share a tool tale.
And now, Tool Tales with Tool Talk Radio.
I did it again. I forgot to just point at Max and say, okay, here we go. Okay. Anyway, I've got a tool tale. Now, this is not something foreign to me. Basically, I built I think I mentioned, I'm wrapping up. I'm putting the finishing touches on this deck that I've been building for the last couple of weeks. If you're new to Tool Talk Radio, like I said, I've been, building a deck. Well, one of the things, this... I built a deck for this customer's brother-in-law, and they were talking about how they're having issues where possums are starting to like the deck. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to. People are eating breakfast right now.
Yeah, literally.
And so, in an attempt to kind of keep critters out of the from underneath this deck, we're installing, what is that called? Hardware cloth. It's like that wire mesh that and so we're using a staple gun. And I have 2 staple guns, but now there's nothing special about them. They're just basically your good old fashioned, regular staple gun. Well, this guy, I'll give a shout out, Bill. Bill is a tool guy. He's one of these guys.
Okay.
If he needs, if he's going to use a thing one time, he's going to go buy the most expensive version of that tool.
Right.
And so he's like, no, man. Let me show you what I got. He pulled out. It is a battery-powered, 18-gauged, motorized stapler.
Yes.
This thing is cool, Alan. It's like, it's got a big...
Is it a 12 gauge?
I don't know, man. It's got
it's
a
a
big...
T50.
If you're looking at it, it looks a lot like a nail gun, which I'm not always a big fan of nail guns. But this is something else. These are staples because staple into wood. And the thing is, so it's pretty safe. It's not like you can just point it, shoot it at somebody because it has a little what do you call it? Like a little bumper at the front.
It has a depression trigger at the front.
A depression trigger. You have to push it down and then you can fire it. That's not to say you still need safety glasses because if this thing if it hits a knot,
stuff can still whatever. Yeah.
But holy smokes, you pull the trigger and it revs up like an engine. It goes and then boom. I mean. It'll drive some, and these staples were a good inch long, and they buried themselves in that wood. I mean, no problem. So I was really impressed. It's battery powered, like I said. But have you ever used one? What I was trying to figure out, Alan, was why this thing is so big. Because I can hear a motor. I guess I'm wondering what it looks like inside. I mean, this thing's bigger than a drill.
Well, basically, it's a little tiny pile driver.
Okay.
So what you're hearing rank up is it's actually pulling back the, for lack of a better word, the slam down weight. Because it's going to pull this back so that it can take a brad, your staple, up to 1 inch or 1.5 inches. Someone can really do really big stuff.
Mm-hmm. What have you got against Brad?
You know, he invented things that stuck in wood very well.
Okay.
So, you know, when you fire this thing
Don't
up,
encourage him, Allan. Okay.
It pulls this thing back like a crossbow and fires it like a crossbow. Pow! Into the wood.
I'd be curious what it looks like inside, like the guts of it, because it's different.
It's really cool. It actually is a little tiny mechanical crossbow.
Right.
Actually pulls this thing back, loads it, drops it in place, and lets it slam forward.
That's what it's like. Oh, wow. That makes sense because it sure.
I took one apart a while back.
Great minds think alike.
So I had to take it apart and fix it.
So. I thought it was just scientific curiosity. So.
Oh, well, the fact that it might not have been all that stuck.
Right.
You know, I had to take it apart. You know, I've been using a smaller version of that, the little T50 model. And again, battery technology has reached a point where it is shockingly effective and easy to get a job done.
Oh, yeah.
With something. Because in the past, we had to drag the air hose behind us. Yeah.
I was going to say, this was a...
Ka-doom.
Right.
You know, oh, my Lord. Now the new ones, and they honestly are like 18 volt. You just take it off your other tools, slap it on, and tow, and down you go.
With this brand, the battery was much smaller than the batteries I use. It's still an 18 volt. So, but I will say there are safety things. Just I would be careful. You definitely wear glasses. In fact, I had one. I always have glasses on myself, but I had one ricochet off of, it hit the metal wrong and it hit me in the forehead. Right. So don't play around with these. But
keep in mind, you're firing a piece of metal into wood 1 inch deep. This is not a gentle discharge.
Yeah, no, these are cool though. Yeah. And I will say, if given the right type of, I never priced it. I'm guessing this thing's probably $150 or something, wouldn't you think? So.
They range anywhere in price from low-end models somewhere around the $40-50 up to about $150. Yeah.
Okay. Because the other thing is, one thing with my staplers, I mean, I was stapling a lot. There was a lot of... and also having to kind of bend over and reach around and get at points. And you know how that is when you use just a regular stapler. Boy, your wrists get, it's kind of a workout.
Yeah, it takes a beating. Yeah.
And sometimes trying to staple it bounces your hand away. It's hard to, whatever. But
Nope. I love the new ones of several different brands. Like I said, I've been using the smaller T50 model. I'll be using it again this week because we're doing an insulation job.
Yeah.
So for putting up that batting, little small T50 graded staples and just tack, walk straight down.
Well, if you're out there and you've had some good success with these types of, staplers or whatever, let us know your thoughts because I'm tempted. I don't know that I'm ready to buy one because I don't know how often I'm going to use it, but it is one of those things when you need it, boy, this is the way to go.
Oh, yes.
So if you do a lot of stapling, what the heck? But also keep in mind, this was outdoor work and nobody was going to see it because it was on the inside of the deck. I don't know if I'd use this for finished or I don't think that. I mean, it leaves some holes and dents and.
Right, you have the very high end, very industrial.
Yeah,
they make some smaller, smoother ones that'll make a less damage.
Okay, cool. Well, we got a lot to get to, you guys. When we come back, I'm looking at our list, and I probably already over teased half of it. However, one thing we are absolutely going to get to is our discussion about great inventors in history. Well, we discussed Thomas Crapper.
Yes.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Was that toilet always next to the refrigerator?
Nah. You ever try lugging the toilet up a flight of stairs?
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
He's not wrong. Carrying a toilet up the stairs is it's a little awkward, especially if you didn't take all the water out.
Oh,
Yeah, probably not a good idea. And welcome back to, let's move it along.
Pretty apropos for what we're about to discuss.
Gee, no kidding, Matt. I wonder why Max picked that rejoinder.
I actually didn't think about it, but that's a good point.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to head over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the interesting posts we've made over there, including one we probably won't get to, Alan. I once again over-teased, I think, but if we don't get to it, we'll get to it next week. But after you've done that, scoot on over to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page, and you can watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams. In a minute, we're going to be getting to a really interesting discussion from our great inventors in history. But while we're talking about the Royal Retreat, Alan, why don't you tell us about our friends over there?
Well, everybody has little family dynamics, and occasionally it's time to find a little help for a loved one. The Royal Retreat is an assisted living at 6551 Knight Arnold Road. They are very conveniently located right between Germantown and Collierville, right off of Kirby Parkway.
Oh, yeah.
It's honestly, a couple of moments
throw a rock
right off of 385.
Right.
And again, you need to have a family plan. Everybody needs a little help now and again, a little assistance, maybe some medications, place to stay, respite. They can get in touch with Lana Candela, the community director, and she is at 901-563-2210. And this is one of these things where I'm going to tell you, go take a tour, give them a call, ask some questions, actually have some answers, and get a family plan together for when somebody does need some additional help.
Well, that's where the rubber hits the road anyway. When you walk in, that's what you're like, okay, because it's one thing to read the brochure or to visit the website, but when you walk in and take the tour and start asking the questions and just seeing how they treat the residents, they're just
see the activities, check out the dining room, look at the courtyards. This is one of these things where you need to get in, go walk around, take a look, ask questions, get answers. And basically have a plan.
And it's just the right size too. So that's what's great about it. So yeah, we love the folks over there at the Royal Retreat. So all right, this is gonna be interesting. Hit it, Max.
And now, great moments in building history.
Technically. Yeah, well, this is a great this is a great inventor in building history, and apparently the dynamics are it's much more of a dynamic thing we're talking about here. And of course, we're going to discuss Thomas Crapper. He was born in September 28th, 1836. It's interesting because I don't know why I felt like plumbing and I don't know. I feel like it went back further, but I guess it didn't. And we've said this before. History was a little smellier than we would like. History was messy, and let's face it, one of the biggest challenges of having a civilization, especially a city or something, is you got to contain, sanitation. And boy, did he came along and really is it true that he revolutionized things? You say he improved on toilets
we've talked about you even brought this up a few weeks ago about the Roman baths.
Yeah.
And the Romans had the toilets and running water and the aqueducts.
One of my favorite terms is the xylospongium.
Yes, the xylospongium, or winding up on the wrong end of the stick.
Yeah,
yes.
And remember, people might be eating breakfast right now. So
okay.
Yeah,
Who cares? We're being delicate, but it is the ability to remove waste and the bring in fresh water is the sign of civilization.
Well, I got a question about this right out of the gate. So at the time of Thomas Crapper, who was a very proud Brit, the Brits, even today,
and
there's manhole covers that have his name proudly emblazoned on there.
Yes.
So when he came along, though, what was the state of plumbing at that point? Like, what were people basically doing to take care of this issue?
Well, there was something called the Great Stink of 1858.
Yeah.
Well,
that's all you want to say about that, Matt? Things got thrown out the window. Let's go
back a little bit, and let's go back to 1596 where Queen Elizabeth I, her godson, Sir John Harrington, invented what basically we could look at now as a flush toilet.
Okay, that far back. Wow.
Water was brought in. It was kind of put in a tank, and when you pulled the little handle, the tank pushed, everything down through the seat, and you weren't using the chamber pot anymore.
Right. Okay.
And the chamber pot was exactly that. It was a device you kept under the bed so that you could relieve yourself
and it had to
during
be
the evening, and had to be cleaned by the chamber staff. Or that's also where we get weird rules, like when you're walking with a lady, the lady always has to be to the inside of the building and the man to the outside of the building in case somebody chucked the contents of the chamber pot out the window.
Boy, that'll throw a damper on your hot date for the night.
So, kind of welcome this. So when Mr. Crapper comes along...
That's why they all carry umbrellas out there, right?
Well, there's a lot of reasons.
Okay.
So Mr. Crapper comes along, and we are in the early stages of delivering water, because to have London, you had to have water stations.
Sure.
So you had aquifers and pumps, and water was delivered. And because you didn't necessarily have running water at the home yet, you went and took your buckets down and you filled them at the filling station, more or less.
Right.
So Mr. Crapper comes along, and for the higher end people that had water sources, he came up with a really killer idea.
Yeah.
So how do you get something to self-fill? And how do you get it to shut off?
Right.
It's easy enough to get the water to come to it.
Yeah.
But how do you get it to stop?
You can't just let it keep running in.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And so his big contribution was basically the ball cock that turned the water off when the tank had reached an appropriate amount of full.
So if you lift the lid on your toilet these days, which probably looks not unlike what he invented, it's a basic technology. That's his contribution.
Right. That is, and this is huge because this changed how we do a lot of things.
Sure.
This had implications for food production, bathing, water control, how to fill to a certain level, how to measure water.
Right.
Because once you could set the ball cock to different levels to bring in different amounts of water. So it wasn't just the toilet in the fact that we now had a device that allowed you to control how much water was being brought in for a use.
I just want to say something, just in case, because everybody's toilets look different and not everybody's as familiar with it. But, I think a lot of people have lifted that
there's a
tank
float
lid off. There's that floating arm, and there's a big ball at the end that's filled with air. That's what you're talking about.
Yes.
So when it floats up, it stops the water flow.
The angle puts pressure on the little gasket,
right,
and that stops the water from coming in.
When you look at it, it is the simplest idea, but how often have we said the best ideas are always very simple and they're easy to overlook? But
being a good
big
businessman and a plumber by trade, Sir Thomas Crapper, well, he was actually never a sir. He was just Mr. Crapper.
He should be.
I understand, but he was just Mr. Crapper. There was kind of a satirical book kind of got written about him, and for some reason we got all kinds of crazy ideas about him.
Right.
But Mr. Crapper did a great job of bringing us a lot of what we consider modern plumbing today.
I had a comment about that because in my research, one of the things that it seemed to say was that he was he was a craftsman in terms of the quality of his products were very good. Because you could see, if this was badly made, you could see a lot of problems. Think of how many flooded homes we'd have if it wasn't. So maybe part of the key to his success was his workmanship and his craftsmanship of making because really you got to get this one right. If it didn't, man, you're dealing with a lot of things. If you go away for the day and your toilet just decides to keep running,
it can flood your house. And so the actual patent for a flush toilet was back in, I got to think about this for a second, 1775. and that was Alexander Cummings.
Okay.
So, welcome to, we can go all the way back to ancient Rome and Egypt, come all the way through the Greeks, all the way through history with, as we always love to say, water is your enemy, but in this particular case, water is civilization.
How you
Bringing
manage
in
water, exactly.
And how you get it to go away.
Well,
because getting rid of the waste brought about huge hygiene and just not dying of cholera.
Well, just making your life
huge things.
You're sitting there talking about. I mean, we're joking about it, but that was a real thing. People threw things out the window. People left stuff in alleyway. People poured stuff on the street. You're right, man. Think of how bad it must have smelled back in history and everything.
One of the things was of decomposition makes gases. One of the gas it makes is methane. And one of the problems London had when they started getting sewers and toilets and, gases build up and will blow manhole covers off of things. They can explode. They can ignite.
Right.
And this is why when you look at a modern house, there is this odd, bizarre pipe sticking out of the top of your house. And that is because that is an air pipe.
Sure.
It is going down into the plumbing, leaving your building or establishment, and it is allowing the exchange of gases, but it does it up above your dwelling.
Right.
You're not a part of this program.
What other aspects of plumbing? Because I thought, Max, you said that there was a. Didn't he have something to do with the S bend, or did he? I don't know.
He also came up with, that's the reason I brought up the gases. Is that when you put that little bend in the pipe, that little tiny reservoir of water, and it's only a couple of tablespoons of water, is actually sufficient to keep the air pressures separated.
It's called the U-bend.
Right. And I mean, that simple turn, like you said, it's a watertight barrier. It's another brilliant idea that is so simple to look at. When you look at a toilet, it looks basic. It looks almost primal in its simplicity. And yet
it just goes down and falls over the back.
Yeah.
But that little tiny bit of water left in the bottom is sufficient to keep the sewer gases, which can involve CO2, which can involve methane, can involve hydrogen sulfide, gases that are not necessarily good for us, of stay on the other side.
Yeah, no
they
kidding. They
stay over there, and we get to exist over here.
And if you think about how many, like we said, you can't really measure it, but how many diseases were prevented because of the improvement in hygiene, and how many, just a simple fact that the world probably smelled a lot better once this invention became mainstream.
Well, kind of as a twisted side comment to this, of there's a reason why New York brownstones were called brownstones, and that's because before modern plumbing, all the waste wound up in the street, and if it's February and it's all frozen, it stays with you until it melts.
Okay.
Just kind of make it a little bit kind of
Yeah.
So this is where the ability to drain water from the inside of a facility, and your main reasons to drain water are, of course, like doing the dishes.
Sure.
And going to the toilet.
Right. Okay. Hey, I do have a question, though. I thought when we were talking off the air that you said it was, this didn't just come along with, unopposed, you could say. Wasn't there a lot, like we talk about the rivalry between Tesla and Edison and things like that. Not, he wasn't the only guy out there working on this situation, right? So
there were a number of other plumbers out there, and even poor John Harrington, who invented the flush toilet, his godmother, the Queen, it is rumored, wouldn't use it because it made unfortunate noises.
Really?
So here you go.
What unfortunate? She didn't like the flush
She
sound?
didn't. It was because it was too loud. It was.
It was uncouth. I mean, I think I'd take a little noise over the other option.
But keep in mind also, there's all this legacy thinking.
Yeah.
And, and you even get, quips throughout history, like even Albert Einstein is rumored to have said, if I had it all to do over again, I'd have been a plumber. So
we'll talk about job security. You have to have a plumber. I mean,
that is why the plumbing occupation is often referred to as the princely occupation, because honestly, plumbing, and again, you look at a businessman like Thomas Crapper, and he had a couple of minor ideas that were earth-shattering, and let's be honest, fairly civilization changing.
Sure.
You talk about a technology that literally could save your life.
It's hard to think of a bigger change in civilization. I mean, when once you handle this problem, and let's face it, basically every country in the world, are mostly utilizing this type of an invention.
Yes.
I mean, and it's changed the.
And if you think about that ball cock filling system, we use those in therapeutic water beds. We use those in therapy all the time. We use that same type of little invention in medical stuff to fill things to an exact point, to commercial food production.
I'm not a car guy, but I even feel like there's technology like that in automobiles, right?
It has been in the past, and of the same idea is also carried forward.
Yeah. I don't know what Max is doing, so, okay. All right. Are we going to break, Max? All right. That's a weird thing. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I've been cooped up in the studio too long. Forgotten what it's like to be outside working next to men who know what they're doing.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
It is an exciting feeling, being around men that know what they're doing. So,
yes.
I mean, but it happens. Hey, I like to think we know what we're doing. So, and welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. I don't know what he did. We're having some fun audio adventures, Allan.
Hey.
You're gonna I'm looking forward to hearing the podcast version of this.
Yes. Live radio.
You can call live radio, baby. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Check out the action over there, like the page, and share the page. And then while you're on Facebook, scoot on over to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams.
And I would be remiss if I did not remind everybody that they can take us with them anytime they'd like. They can pop over to tooltalkradio.com. And guess what? We are a podcast at YouTube and Spotify.
Yeah.
So you can find us wherever you like to find your podcast.
Question. Because I know they can send messages to the Tool Talk Radio website, right?
They certainly can.
Can they message you? And we don't say this often enough, but if you're watching watching YouTube or you're listening to Spotify or whatever, make sure you give us a good review because that helps and it gets the word out. If you especially if you make some comments, I think the algorithms always appreciate that. But
like us and subscribe, please. Please do.
I'm going to call out some of the listeners overseas, though. We're still waiting for some feedback about what sort of home improvement issues do you have if you live in New Zealand? What about some of our listeners in Malaysia? What are your challenges? And so we want to know about those. And
we've got some new fans in Spain this week.
Oh, cool.
So yes, hola España. So we're looking forward to hearing from you too.
Absolutely. So as long as we're plugging away, what's going on with darkoakmedia.com this week, Allan?
It is Halloween.
I was going to
say.
I mean, we know what you're going to be all about for the next few weeks. So,
yeah, for the next few weeks, the massive big winners are, of course, on a Haunted History series we've got on there. You can check it out and hear all about Haunted Halloween, Haunted New Orleans. You can check out the Haunted History lady herself, Kalila. So they can just pop over to, honestly, they can go to tooltalkradio.com, click on the YouTube button, and check it out. Watch the shows, listen to the podcast, and like and subscribe.
So that's sort of the one-stop shop. So you get a lot more content over there than you may have
absolutely
bargained for. So,
well, we have over currently in our inventory, we have over 500 different shows.
Yeah.
Currently at Dark Oak Media at YouTube.
Well, there you go. So, all right, and I'm going to do a shameless plug of my own because we are finally at that time of year. It's funny. It feels like we just did this, but coming up, it's not that far away. The Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention is coming up November 10th through 12th, and we're going to be at the University of Memphis Holiday Inn this year, which is a really cool. It's a big, it's a bigger venue than we were at last year. We're also partnering up with a lot of the different groups over there at the University of Memphis. Video gaming is going to be huge. I'm going to have more news about video gaming next week. But our celebrity guest is Jonah Ray from Mystery Science Theater 3000, the newer iteration. He's a really super nice guy, really funny, and you can meet him when you come on out. I will tell you, too, the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention, I'm very proud of the fact that we always keep our ticket prices affordable. We are literally the most affordable convention in the Mid-South, so we want you to bring your family. It's a family event. It's got, we have fun for everybody, but we want kids to come too. So you can learn more if you go to memphiscfc.com, or you can get your tickets at 901tix.com, which, we're all partnered up with all the Cumulus stations over here, so they're going to be represented at the convention as well. It's going to be a lot of fun, November 10th through 12th at the University of Memphis Holiday Inn. Well, let's wrap up our discussion. We were talking about Thomas Crapper, one of the greatest inventors of modern history. We joke about stuff, but really what he did really revolutionized. I mean, we talk about pivotal moments in history. Managing this problem really changed civilization. I mean, today we just sort of take it for granted, but can you imagine living a couple hundred years ago? I don't know.
You don't take it for granted when it fails, that's for sure.
Well, I don't know. We hats off to Thomas Crapper, a great inventor in history.
He added a wonderful invention to an already good series of great inventions throughout history.
Absolutely. So, well, we didn't quite get to everything I tease, Alan. We'll just get to our must-have item next week.
Not a problem.
No big deal. But what a show! What an interesting installment of Tool Talk Radio. But it's in the can, literally. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.